Hello, it is Nancy Juetten. I'm the Get Known to Get Paid mentor, and I'm also the podcast guesting success expert. And from time to time, I bring amazing guests to my audience that have value to add to help you get known, get paid, create an audience, build your visibility, and create the kind of impact you want at the bottom line and beyond. And today I have a very, very special guest that I'm bringing to you because who doesn't need to build more leads for their business so that they can become a conversion machine instead of the alternative? If you want more leads, if you want more cash, if you want more conversations, if you want more connections, if you want all these big C words that make everybody smile all the way to the bank, you've got to have a lead generation machine in place that is current and relevant and working for what's working today in 2022. So let me tell you about my very special guest who's joining us today. It's Bob, the teacher Sparkins. He's the sales and marketing manager for Leadpages. He champions the customers of the top landing page and website building conversion platform and the audiences they serve. A former high school history teacher and academic team coach, Bob has taught business owners around the world how to leverage digital marketing to impact more people with less effort since 2006. He's the author of Take Action, Revise Later, and lives in Bloomington, Minnesota with his wife, Therese, and their amusing kids, Kyra and Landon. And I am so excited to have you here.
Thank you, Nancy. It is really a pleasure to reconnect with you since we've known each other for, I think, a dozen, maybe 13 years, something like that. We go way back. So it's always good to connect with you.
Well, it's good to have you here. And I'll never forget being seen, heard, and celebrated on the Leadpages blog for a couple of 5-figure launches I did way back in the day. And it was just so exciting to be seen and heard in such a cool immunity. It was such a cool opportunity. It was really thrilling because at that point I was just getting started, and look what Leadpages did for me. So all these years I've been a huge fan. And while other platforms have come and gone and people have switched and gone and done all kinds of things, I've stayed loyal to Leadpages the whole time. And so I really appreciate the relationship that we have. So lead generation. So much has changed in the last year or so, especially with iOS and all these other kinds of things. What has changed? Why does it matter? And what do we do about it?
Oh, that's a really great deep dive to start us out with. For one thing, I think it's important to note that there are things that definitely have changed, especially around privacy that you're alluding to. There are different, it becomes more and more difficult for you, me, for Leadpages, for those of you watching, for you to reach an audience that you don't know already and to hit them with targeted messages that you think will help them convert into a new lead or a new buyer. It used to be the case, and it still is in some regard, where you could go into Facebook, you could put some parameters in, and then you could do some lookalike audiences and some retargeting and all this other stuff and get great results. And in some level, you can do that a bit. But as we go more into the next phase of privacy, people are having to look on their phones and they see a little message that pops up when they download an app that says, would you like us to track what you're doing and share this? And a lot of people are scared about that. And so they're clicking decline. And what you may or may not know is that Facebook and Google and all these other advertising platforms have been relying on implied consent, if you can call it that, where people were just sharing the data and they're part of this big, microcosm of the world where that data was being shared. And that allowed advertisers to tap into networks of people very easily. That is being, kind of shut down. And so it's really more important than ever for you to have your own email list, for you to have your own audience that's not just connected to you on Facebook or Instagram or any other platform, but within a section of your business called an email list where you can open it up, you can send out a message and they can receive it. If you don't have that email list and you are only relying on social media in order to get your message out there, number one, you could be shut down at any moment, and people are getting more and more aggressive. I think the platforms are getting more aggressive about shutting people down based on factors of their own choosing. They're a private business, right? They can choose the criteria they want. But the difficulty for you can be that you put all your eggs in this basket and you find yourself either on probation, what they call Facebook jail, right? Or other platforms can take away your access. But having your own email account, your own email service provider, and I'm talking about things like Constant Contact that I think you said you use, Nancy, Aweber, Drip, Active Campaign, et cetera. You want to have an account at one of these services so that you can, message people. And a quick little side tip, and then I'll wrap this part up to see where else you might want to go with it. Download your leads. Make sure you have the access to be able to download a file of leads once a month at least, so that you can protect yourself in case your email system happens to go down, because that is still a third-party tool. I don't know, Nancy, if you ever talk about the great service that your husband has been providing with, the file lock stuff of, protecting your online business assets. But one of the things you want to do is always make sure you're downloading your email list every month or so, just in case something goes haywire. You want to be able to access what's one of the most important assets in your business.
Well, I couldn't agree more with what you just said. I mean, I have done launches from time to time where some tech gremlin has gotten in the way of progress at the worst possible time. And if there's anything more disempowering than that, it's kind of hard for me to imagine it in this particular moment. Owning your email list gives you the opportunity to push information out to people whenever you want, as opposed to having to be beholden to people who scroll through and might occasionally take a look at what it is that you have to say. I'd much rather have people being engaged in what it is I'm sharing with them, and to create that conversation. So we know we need to have our own email list, and we need to have as many of them as possible, really, because I guess that would be another question. You work with some of the leading internet entrepreneurs in the transformational coaching space and every kind of industry there is. Often we hear people say, it's a numbers game, it's a numbers game, it's a numbers game. Can you elaborate a little bit on that in terms of what you're seeing in terms of how many numbers we need in order for things to work out?
Yeah, really good question. And there's a couple different ways to take a look at this. But the first thing I want to really set your mind at ease with is you can have a very successful business with an email list of 200 people, of 300 people, of a couple hundred people that are really engaged with you, what you stand for, what you can deliver as a service. And if you have cultured that audience and you want to go do a launch where you say, hey, I'm going to do a boot camp and it's going to be next month, and there's going to be 40 people, 40 spots, and there's going to be a certain price point or whatever. If you have a list of 200 to 300 people who really know you, who've been following with you, you can fill that. It's not easy and it's not automatic, but you don't need this huge, ginormous list in order to be successful. Now, once you do have a little bit more time under your belt, if you're just getting started, a year or two down the road, it should be the case that you likely have a list, over 1,000, maybe over 10,000, depending on how you want to grow it and how personal you want to be. Because, honestly, once you get over 1,000 people, it's difficult for you to feel like the people on your list, and for you to be able to compellingly write emails where people feel like they really know you. It can be done, don't get me wrong, but I just want to make sure you know that you don't need a large list. What you need is a set of raving fans, and that can come in the hundreds as opposed to the thousands. With that kind of communication, that kind of relationship where you actually open up email responses and respond back to them in your Gmail account or your other services that you're using, that's really, I think, what for people who are transforming the lives of the people that they work with, I think that's essential. And I'd also say that before you even get going that far, if you have a way to collect a lead and you simply email each lead manually for the first 20, 30, 40 people, you can do that. Like, you're not so overwhelmed that you need technology to deliver a message. You can receive a notice from Leadpages that says, hey, somebody signed up for a lead magnet. We'll send out the file that they asked for, but then we'll also let you know, hey, here's somebody that signed up. And you can just go ahead and email them individually. It takes a little bit of extra time, and you can do templates in your email system, whatever. But ultimately, yes, you want an email service, but I don't want you to wait until you've mastered an email platform for you to start actually communicating to people who are showing interest in what it is that you do. I don't know you yet. Nancy and I have known each other a long time. Those of you watching, you and I don't know each other, so I don't know exactly where you are in your business. But if you have a coaching business, which I'm assuming, you're likely in that space, then you only need 5 to 10 people who showed interest for you to get on the phone with 3 or 4 of them and convert one of them into a high-paying client.
So let me say something about that.
Yeah.
I really like what you're saying here, because at the end of the day, while many people say it's a numbers game, we're dealing with human beings here, beings who want to be seen, heard, and helped, and acknowledged, and ultimately compensated for what it is that they do. And to the extent that we all can treat our people like our people on our list, not like names on a list, but like human beings that have lives and businesses and problems that need to be solved. The personal approach that we take with a direct message or a follow-up that's personal. I actually had a situation last week where someone bought a product that was a couple of years out of date. I don't even know how he found the product, but I thought to myself, what is the best answer to this? Do I have, I didn't think to myself, is there an automated solution to deal with it? I thought, you know what? I'm going to pick up the phone and call this guy and let him know that I have an even better way to serve him now. And would he be open to receiving an even better product for the same investment? His answer was, oh my God, you're actually calling me and having a conversation with me about a customer service issue and your name is on the door? I said, yeah, I really am. He said, wow, I am amazed that I am having this experience with you. And it sort of made me think about how even in the early stages, sometimes people are thinking they've got to automate everything. But if you could be a human being that goes the extra mile when someone raises their hand with interest in doing something with you, you have a huge opportunity to turn their head in a really big way, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I want to raise a point from an old colleague of mine, Chris Davis, that I worked with at Leadpages for a while. He's a great marketing automation guy. And I don't know a better, more brilliant mind in the marketing automation space. And he always talks about, don't automate things that you don't know if they work or not. There's no reason to scale something that hasn't been tested. And so I'm glad we had this part of the conversation already, Nancy, because the best way to find good copy for your email list as you grow and scale it is to have those personal one-on-one emails and see which ones respond. And then they become the starting point of whatever email series you do for automatic response messaging that you would do in the future.
So good. So landing pages. We're going to talk about landing pages now, but I want you to address something right out of the gate that I think is like an elephant in the room that needs to be called out. Some people created a website with simple template and they went with the sign up for my e-zine and get useful tips and information. And they put it at the bottom of their homepage or somewhere where people can scarcely find it. What point of view do you have about that? Should people be doing that or what? I mean, what's your point of view about that?
So if you're doing nothing else, having a box at the bottom of your email is better than zero. However, I want you to think personally, when you wake up in the day and you go searching online for solutions to things, are you looking for more email to come into your inbox? Like, is that what you're seeking? Are you seeking another message to come into your inbox? The answer is probably no. You can put it into the chat if you're with us live today. If you're watching a replay and there's a chat below, go ahead and say yes or no. And I'm betting that you would say, no, I don't want more email. I want less email. I want as little email as possible. So yes, have the box if you don't have anything as an alternative. But what people really want is a solution. And they don't want to scroll all the way to the bottom of your website in order to feel like they're getting help from you. So right at the top of your hero section, that's the top section of your website, you should have a USP or a unique selling proposition. This is a bold statement of how you serve your people. And right below that should be a button that says download now or get started with the first thing that you give to people. Okay. So we're going to talk about lead magnets and other things that you can give away to people. But the idea is that instead of just giving away an easy newsletter that you send out fortnightly or whenever you get around to it, You want them to receive something immediately that they can get value from, and understand that they're at whatever point in their journey they are here, where you can get them to. And the pathway starts with this first little step. And you get their email address, you give them the first step, and then they make their way towards buying from you in the very near future. So that should be on your website. Yes, you should have landing pages. We're going to talk about that in a minute, I'm sure. But even on a website, right at the top, you should have a way for people to download something for free in exchange for an email address that gets them started on the path towards where they want to become.
I couldn't agree more. And I want to ask you another question.
Yes.
I remember hearing during a Leadpages interview a number of months ago that Leadpages keeps track of all these metrics, like how many people actually download a free gift from a website versus how many people download a free gift from a squeeze page that's got only one request being made.
Yep.
What's current today? Have the numbers changed since the last time I heard them? What's your point of view on that?
Yeah, so most people, and the numbers that we typically give are unoptimized websites versus optimized landing pages. And there is a middle ground where you can find some strength. But a website usually has navigation. If it's a blog, it has a sidebar, it has articles, it has all this stuff on it. And usually there's like one spot where you could have a request for the email. And sometimes it looks more like an advertisement than it does something of use. So it doesn't really get as much attention because people have this advertising blindness when they come to a website, as opposed to a squeeze page or landing page where the only focus is on, here's the thing I have to offer you, here's how to get it. There's no navigation, there's no distractions, there's no sidebar, no whatever else. And so what we typically see is that on a website, you'll get between 1% and 2% of people who come to your website to say yes to the free gift or to the e-zine or whatever. When you do a landing page, you're going to see 15%, 20%, 35, 40% for people who may already know you or be connected to social media. It shouldn't surprise you to see numbers over 50%. So that means with the same amount of traffic, you could have 2 people sign up out of every 100 or 50 people. Now, normally you're going to be more in that 20 zone. And so, 15 to 20 times faster growth of your email list because you're using a dedicated landing page as opposed to an unoptimized website. Like I said, you can optimize your website and get to that 10 or 15% conversion for a website, but even that is not as good as a dedicated landing page. So think about that. When you are giving away your link in your business card, you have your link in bio on any social media profile. When you are just, somebody asks you, hey, what's your website? I want to check it out. Are you giving them the URL of your primary website homepage? Or are you sending people to a landing page? And I want to encourage you, if you take nothing else away from this conversation, then make sure that you are focused on sending people to a dedicated landing page, and ideally a dedicated landing page for the thing that they're looking for, as opposed to some landing page that may or may not fit them. Like, don't use landing pages just because I said so. Use a landing page specific for the type of person that you're talking to and what their current situation is. What kind of solution are they looking for?
So that leads me to a specific question or thing I want to point out is one of the things that I do is I teach my clients to book themselves on podcasts 4 to 12 in 12 weeks under their own power without hiring an expensive booking agency. I want people to be able to never be hungry for an audience ever again. And one of the things that I teach people is that when you have the opportunity after having a wonderful conversation with the host to share the call to action that you most want people to take, you should have an easy to say, easy to spell, and easy to remember URL. Because when people are listening to podcasts, sometimes they're mowing the lawn or walking the dog or multitasking, and the likelihood of them remembering Infusionsoft524153.com is like 0. So I'm just curious, in your various travels with entrepreneurs around the country, have you heard of anything that podcasters or podcast guests are doing that may be outside of my own awareness that could be something to add to the conversation about that?
Yeah, I think the main thing is getting with the podcast host ahead of time and making sure that the show notes and that they're ready with the specific link that you have. If you want to spend $10 a year on a unique domain name for each podcast interview you're on, could get a little overwhelming with your domain list and a little costly. But honestly, $10 a year, if you're going to get 500 clicks a year from it, that's pretty good math in the marketing world. But what's usually better is to have a dedicated domain name that you can put a slash and then some kind of short word or number next to it. So for example, I don't have my own business right now. It's been on hiatus for almost 9 years now. But I do have bobtheteacher.com, and I have takeactionreviselater.com, for example. And so if I'm on a podcast about my book, then I would say, I've got something free for you at takeactionreviselater.com/NJ. I don't have that. Don't go there. It's going to go to an error page. But that would dedicate that specific URL to the podcast listeners with Nancy Juetten. Okay. And then when I'm on a call with Kelly Roach, I do the same thing, takeactionreviselater.com/KR. Then I can use a different landing page that says, hey, listeners of Nancy, here's your page. Hey, listeners of Kelly, hey, here's this page. Everything else about the page can be the same exact download, same exact messaging, but that one little bit helps make people know that they have received exactly what they are expecting. And it's going to improve your conversion rate on those pages even more. And the nice thing is once you create one in about 30 minutes or less, creating the second one takes about 5 minutes. So you have a way, if you're doing, a dozen interviews in a couple months, like Nancy can teach you, then take the time to make individual landing pages for each of those specific interviews. It'll really pay off well. And even better, you'll see which of your interview partners is sending you the most traffic. So when you go to audit the results you've had for the last few months, the last year, you look at 2022, you did your dozen interviews, you did 20 interviews. You look back and there's 3 interviews that brought you 500 leads, and the other 17 brought you 20 leads. Guess what? You pick up the phone, you talk to those top 3 people, you do another partnership together, do another Facebook Live, you do some kind of report together, whatever it is. But that kind of metric helps you to know. If you don't do that, guess what? You have no data to tell you which of your marketing efforts are really the most successful. Everything is in the aggregate, which means you can't really make informed decisions. And that's just not awesome. You want to be able to get as much input as possible so that you can make some great decisions for your business, especially if you are in the newer stages and you have a limited amount of time. You really need to know what's working. You need to know it fast, and you need to know it without a lot of complication.
Yes, that's excellent. Thank you so much. So then going back to the whole landing page, you've made an excellent case that landing pages make sense and that they should be a priority for lead generation. So there's short and sweet landing pages, and there's long and elaborate pages, and there's ugly and functional pages, and there's pages that you spend 8 hours perseverating about to get to every aspect of perfection. What's your point of view? What's working today? What's not working today? What do you recommend?
Yeah, well, as much as designers of the world would have you think otherwise, the reality is ugly, simple pages tend to outperform the most elaborate, beautiful pages. And I don't want that to be the case, but if you look at the template gallery over at Leadpages, we sort everything by conversion rate, which shows historically over the tens of thousands of users who are currently using Leadpages and those of the past, which templates convert the best. And the ones that convert the best across all the things, and there's always exceptions, but generally speaking, the ones that are a single section, in other words, you don't even have to scroll down to see additional information. There's simple one pane pages with a headline, with like 3 bullets and a shiny button. There may be a background image or maybe not, or there may be an image to the side of what it is that you're getting. But otherwise, it's very bare bones. Those continue to outperform for lead generation. Now, sales pages, you need to go a little bit more extensive, right? If your landing page is to solicit a purchase, then the longer the page, sometimes the better. But it's really a factor of, do they already know you, and how much are you charging? And if you're charging a lot of money, then you're going to have to probably do a little bit more explaining. But when it comes to list building, lead generation, simpler is better. And resist the temptation of trying to tell a new visitor everything that they could know about what it is that you do. Just tell them what they need to know to make a decision to get started with your free content. So that means you don't need to include your about you information on your landing page. You don't even need to include your logo. You don't need to include why you created this thing in the first place. All you need to do is have a headline that speaks to the challenge the visitor is experiencing and the transformation that they are looking for, and how the thing that you're giving away for free gets them started towards a solution. It doesn't even have to solve it entirely, although the more powerful your lead magnet, the better. But even just getting people started in the right direction is a big help, and it's what will get you that email address. On the thank you page, the page they come to after they've said yes, that's where you can further explain, hey, I'm Nancy. Here's what I do. Here's how I can help you. Here's the file you asked for, or I sent the file to your email. Go check it out. Then you're done. But for a landing page, simpler the better. And although we have beautiful, professionally designed templates that I encourage you to test out, I want you to just make sure you put a page out as quickly as possible, without regard to it going to win some prize award for best looking page. Make it functional and take action on it and revise later.
Excellent. One of the things I've been mentioning to my clients is, well, what I've been hearing from my clients is their lists are small, their social media has not yet been fully developed. They are not exactly sure what to do. And so one of the things that I was suggesting just yesterday is, why don't you find a buddy within the program and do a gift swap to each other's people, as long as there's alignment and fit? Because that could be 100 or 200 or 300 or 1,000 people that rush to your gift that you just created, where you have a instant opportunity to determine how well it's converting from click to lead, to know whether or not it's working for you. So often when we're trying to go it alone, we're limping along, not getting enough people to the page to know whether or not the page even works. And so what is your thought about, what are some clever ways that people can get traffic to their pages outside of gift swaps with friends and colleagues? Anything come to mind that would be of value to share here?
Yeah, well, I think there's a couple of points even with that would be helpful to take a little deeper look. The first is, the first 5 people on your email list should share your last name. Like, absolutely give it to your family. Let them test it out. Let them give you the feedback. Some of them are going to be detractors. Some of them don't know what exactly it is that you're trying to do. But hopefully they'll see you grow and they'll be cheerleaders eventually if they're not right now. But from a functional standpoint, you always want to test your stuff out with some people that aren't you, because you're going to be blind to whatever it is that you've put out there because you've been staring at it for the last couple of days, right? Now, I want to speak about this gift swap idea and go just one layer deeper. It's a fabulous idea. You take somebody who is in alignment, like you said, and you say, hey, will you invite some other people in your community to get my stuff? What I want you to do is, I want you to ask and also give a autoresponder swap. So this is where you do the same thing that Nancy just mentioned, but you do it on, say, day 20 of your email series. So the first few days of your email series that you have for any new subscriber should be about delivering the thing they asked for, giving them value, letting them know how you can help them out. But after they go through this initial, what we call lead nurture sequence, you have this opportunity to continue the conversation, whether they have purchased or not, by saying, hey, here's some other things that I think you might enjoy knowing about. And this is a perfect place for you to take that same gift swap idea and put it into your autoresponder. Let's say it's on day 20. Well, we're doing this call today, right? 20 days from now, though, if people aren't watching this live, would they know about it? But if we have dedicated in our autoresponder that for every new subscriber on day 20, they're going to see this video, you're going to have a consistent traffic to this one piece of content forever. And if I likewise did the swap and Nancy had content for me to share on day 20, all of my people would see the same thing. So that's what we mean by that autoresponder swap. So instead of it in real time on this specific day of the calendar of the year, now it's every day of the year I can be receiving the traffic from Nancy's list, and then I could be sending people to Nancy's group too. So that's a really important layer.
So
Anything about that to stretch on before we talk more about other ways to build up an audience?
I love that. And I just want to call out, one of my clients is a stylist who helps women midlife or better look great online and off, so they can bring more bucks to the bottom line. And another of my clients helps people eat mindfully so that they can feel good about who they are in their own skin, and perhaps even be a little smaller to fit into even cooler clothes. And I was suggesting that the two of them could play together. And now what you're suggesting is a way for it to be an automated, evergreen thing that will bring each other to each other's world all the time. And I think that's so smart, because one of the things I say to my clients all the time is that none of us succeeds alone. We need to create relationships with people that are like-minded and aligned, where we can bridge gaps not yet met. And if we can do that in an automated fashion, wow, that's a great way to make sure content gets seen and heard and celebrated, so that people can be compensated, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it really works super well. This is how I started back in 2006. I had 5 other people that I met with at a live event, and we formed this like rotation of promotion like this. And we all built each other's lists up really nicely with people who were like-minded, and it worked out really well. Another way to build up your list quickly in a similar kind of way is to participate in a giveaway, which sometimes these are things that are orchestrated by people you are already following, and they put out a solicitation at some point and say, hey, in 2 months, I'm going to be doing this giveaway about this thing. If you want to be a contributor, here's how to do that. And if you don't know of somebody that's doing that, you can also look on Google, who's doing a giveaway about this one topic. The downside of that can be that you get some random people who aren't quite qualified yet to really be in your space as a potential customer. But it gives you an opportunity to test out what is working. And it gives you an idea of reaching an audience faster than you can do it on your own. Obviously, podcasting is a very important way to get in front of more people. Doing an Ask Me Anything for somebody else's Facebook group, or for somebody else's, if Instagram Live or whatever, wherever else they might be doing things, you don't have to do a podcast like it's got to be recorded with a mic in a studio, and then they're going to push it out on Libsyn and everybody gets it off of their Apple Podcast or Spotify. It can also be the same thing we're doing right now. We're on Zoom, we're pushing this out to a Facebook group, or we could do it on LinkedIn Live or whatever your ideal audience, wherever they happen to live. You can do the same kind of thing. And the last thing I would say, one of the fastest ways for you to build your list that I learned from is to interview people and do it in a cluster. So these are typically called virtual summits. Some of them are a little overwhelming. I don't recommend 30 people plus virtual summits, especially if you're just getting started. But if you have 4 people that are like-minded, that have an opportunity to share some wisdom around a certain area that meets your target market, you don't even have to teach that audience. You can simply host those 4 people. You invite those 4 people to share the event with their audience as a part of the exchange of being on it. And those 4 people grow each other's lists, and you're the orchestrator of it. And so you're the one who's like Oprah Winfrey or Larry King or whoever else you might think of. I always think of Alex Mandossian, right? He was our original teleseminar trainer back in the day, right, Nancy? And you are the leader. And by extension, there's this credibility transference that happens, and people think you are the rock star, even though you're interviewing all these other people that you may feel are the rock stars. The people who are on that are seeing you every time of those 4 interviews. And there's just a bit of credibility that boosts in there. And the next time you want to email them out, they're going to just have a higher sense of who it is that you are. So I would highly encourage doing a small scale 4-person virtual summit sometime in the next 90 days, if that's of interest to you. You can use Leadpages to put something like that on. You can use Zoom to help deliver the content or record the content. Very easy to do that these days. You don't have to use weird teleseminar systems like we use.
Back in the day, I so remember that. It was like, oh my gosh. Yeah. That's a brilliant idea. And I think that's something that people can implement right away. Now let's talk about another thing that's sort of an elephant in the room. Sometimes earlier stage business owners obsess and perseverate about creating this amazing branded website that's going to be their internet front door, that's going to somehow change everything for them. And sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. What would you say to someone who says, I'm not going to do A, B, and C until I get my website up. I'm not going to do A, B, or C until I get who knows what? Like, sometimes a website can cost a bunch of money and go absolutely nowhere. So what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah. So it really breaks my heart when people put perfectionism in front of service. And that's ultimately what you're doing, right? Let's be grotesque for a minute. You're driving down the highway and you're rushing to an appointment and there's a car accident and somebody is hurt on the side of the road, but you forgot to put makeup on, or you don't have your best clothes on. You don't have the right hat that you normally like to wear. And so you don't stop to help them out because of your sense of perfectionism. And there's a person on the side of the road that could die because you're waiting to be perfect. Now, I don't think most of you are running a business that's in that dire of a situation, but I do want you to think about how much delay do people in your potential customer base, how much will they delay and put up with before they're served because you're waiting to be perfect?
Oh, mic drop
Right?
moment. Oh,
I mean, this is
so
really
good.
an important lesson that I took away from a few different mentors, but kind of something that came to me as I was speaking on a stage with Adam Urbanski's crew, which I know you and I met at him and Nancy at Marmolejo's events. The idea is, when you feel like you're not ready yet, realize that your business is not about you, it's about them. The them that you're serving. And every moment that you delay being ready is a moment that they're still suffering without a solution. And that just sucks, to be honest. So if I could pull the guilt card on you, that's what I would do. Is I would say, get out of your own way, put up something that lets people know who you are. You can always revise it. That's why I'm a take action, revise later kind of guy. You can always revise it, but the people that are there out in the world, they need what you have, and you can't let them wait around for you to be perfect.
Oh,
Now, the flip side of that,
okay.
well, I'll leave it at that for a second, and then I'll talk about the money. But anything to comment before we go to the money side?
Well, what I wanted to say is that many of the people that I come across with are tech phobic and challenged.
Yeah.
And I have described myself that way, and I certainly have not let it stand in the way of what success I've been able to welcome. And I'm very proud of that. But one of the things I love about Leadpages is that, like, you don't have to know code. It's like pretty, I mean, if I go, what's the best converting page for someone in the coaching industry who's accomplishing this? Like, I can find a template, I can type words in, I can hit save, voila. Like, if I can do that, everyone else can do it too.
Yep.
So the thing about websites is websites can be so complex in terms of how they are constructed and all the different elements that are included with the navigation and the imagery and the brand colors and blah, blah, blah. Like, let's just find a quick and dirty template and get this sucker up and running. So like, just talk about that in terms of the money and the speed to market. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, I was at a conference about 2 years ago, and I'm sure prices have gone up since then. And an agency owner in the local Minneapolis area was on stage in front of the Chamber of Commerce presentation and said that an average website is like $10,000 to this group. And that may be true. And I'm sure the $10,000 websites that his agency puts out look amazing. But they likely took 3.5 months or more to get out the door. They cost $10,000, which, if you are pre-revenue, it's a little bit steep. Even a $2,000, $3,000 website is a little bit steep if you're pre-revenue. But the key here is that not only does that take too much time and take too much money to get off the ground, but it also is difficult to update, right? If you want to make a change a month later, Do you have to call that agency again and say, hey, I need this button color change, or I needed to point to a different checkout system? And they're going to charge you $100 an hour or more to get that. To me, that's not really worth it. Now, that being said, there are some agencies and freelancers that will do amazing work and they should be hired. But if you're at the early stages of your business, using a template system for the website gets you what you need faster for a lot less money and puts you in control of your marketing. And you don't have to be a wizard to do it. You simply need to be able to open up a thing, type, maybe move a mouse to drag it somewhere on the page, and otherwise you're good to go. So again, I want to speak to not only the budget, but the speed of deployment and the speed of updating. Because if you're entrepreneurial and you are trying to pursue something, you're going to have ideas that cannot wait for other people to implement. You need to be able to do that. Yes, I want you to have a team eventually if you don't have one yet, but that can come down the road and they can do some things after a little while. But I want you in control enough that if they're on vacation or they go take another position somewhere, you can still go in and feel confident that you can make changes, not blow up anything, and you can have a direct positive impact on your business's bottom line and feel really good about it at the same time.
Well, I amen to that. Now, I guess one other question I have is, for those people who do need help, one of the things I like about Leadpages is that, like, once a week, don't you do like some kind of a customer service call where people can tell us about these weekly calls that you do?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked about that, Nancy. And I would say I'd love to see you more often on those calls too. So first of all, we have an amazing support team. So anytime you get stuck on the technical aspect of your pages, of your builder or whatever, you can reach out to our support team. They're very fast, empathetic. Most of them have been with Leadpages for over 2 years. So they're not just like some rando in another country. They're mostly here in Minneapolis. They know what they're doing and they can help you out. But yeah, every Wednesday, and that's current, sometimes we might change the date in the future, but every Wednesday for free, members of the Leadpages audience who are customers can jump on a call with me. And in a small group setting, I go over individual landing pages and websites, but with Leadpages, and give pointers on how to improve the conversion rate. I also answer questions about the marketing strategy that might be deployed, how much a price point should be, how to layer in upsells if you are inclined to do that sort of thing. And twice a month, those calls, I actually take people's pages into my own account and then I redo them live on the call to show people a little bit more inside the Leadpages builder to know, how to use all the different features, how to move things around, how to adjust colors, how to bring a background image in, how to set up a payment setup for an order bump so you can get more revenue from your individual buyers. Like, there's all kinds of things that come up. And it's really good, I think, to have people have that opportunity where they don't have to feel like they're doing everything on their own. They can become smarter marketers. Like, I'm assuming that everybody watching this call, you're amazing at what it is that you do, and you've never taken a professional course on marketing. I know some of you might have, but the position I take is I don't need to teach you how to be good at your coaching or your job, whatever it is that you do. I just need to help you put that marketing hat on and be able to sell more of it. And so that's what we do every Wednesday. Like I said, it's included in the membership of a Leadpages account. Everybody else that I've seen charges for it. Maybe in the future we charge for it, but for the foreseeable future, that's included as being a member of Leadpages. And it's one of my favorite things I get to do every week.
I'm going to renew my commitment to showing up for those calls, because I want to share something, just sort of a funny story. Sometimes people get so caught up in the exact recipe that we're supposed to follow. The hero goes here, the headline goes here, this is who it's for, this is the problem it solves, we're agitating, and then there's going to be a little button to push. And the button to push, sometimes there's the standard answers that you put there: click here, buy now, go get this, grab this now, whatever. And I was on a call where people were reviewing different landing pages, and one of the gals had this word in her button. It said, "Follow my shenanigans." And I thought, oh my God, That is so much personality. Follow my shenanigans. This woman has got such a personality. I am absolutely going to follow her shenanigans. But what the aha that I got for myself was, maybe I could take a lighter touch with some of the ways that I show the words on the page. Maybe I don't have to be so stiff. Maybe I could have a sense of humor. Maybe I could express more of my own creativity with these pages and not feel like it has to follow some recipe. So the beautiful thing about seeing you make over pages in a group call is that even if you're not called on, you're going to get an aha that was demonstrated for someone else that could be a breakthrough for you. And it's included in your tuition to be a part of Leadpages. So that sort of brings me to a question is, I know pricing changes all the time and you have different kinds of plans, but if somebody were to make the wise decision to invest in Leadpages, can you give us a range of what their investment might be?
Yeah, for sure. First of all, I don't want you to decide today to pay for Leadpages. I want you to decide today to try Leadpages and take the next 14 days and just give it a shot. And we won't charge you a penny. You go to the link that Nancy has, try.leadpages.com/NancyJ, and you make sure to set up a free trial for the next 2 weeks. Pick a plan of your choosing, could be the standard plan, pro plan. You can change your mind in the next 2 weeks before your build. The price point is going to be $50 a month if you're at that standard level, $100 a month if you're at the pro level. And there's different features for each one. And you can save about 25% if you buy an annual plan instead. There are occasionally promotions. And if you're an existing customer, we give you those promotional opportunities too. So don't worry if you pay the first few months on a normal rate. If you see that there's a promotion later down the road, I don't want you to wait for it before you get started. Know that you'll be able to upgrade or be able to do that at some time in the future. So that's the range. So for the price of, it's $888 a year is what the pro level currently costs. It's under $1,000, and then the standard level is half of that. For that much, you are saving so much over those $5,000 or $10,000 websites that you can hire a virtual assistant to run some of the other aspects of your business, right? You can deploy advertising faster because you're saving so much money. And again, you get the coaching from me, the customer support, so that you're not figuring this stuff out on your own. And you don't have to worry about the security issues like you do with WordPress. You get to have a system that's working for you and doing so in a way that I think you'll really enjoy how fast you can be confident in using Leadpages.
Well, I know I've been using it for years, and I have a VA that I use to help bring new pages alive for me now, because it's just false economy for me to be doing things that I'm not as brilliant at as are so easy for her. So I think it's a very good investment to create the kind of impact that is needed. And I am a proud client, and I encourage my clients to become clients of Leadpages for all the reasons that we've talked about. Not the least of which is having access to a real human being who can help you understand what it is that's being done. I was listening to another podcast with a leader that I admire so tremendously, and she was saying that so many of these platforms, I mean, if you've ever tried to deal with the book of faces with a customer issue, it's a very challenging maze to get to a real human being who can help you address the problem. But that's not the case with Leadpages. If you want to get help, help is on the way, and it's a human being that will talk to you and walk you through it. And I think for the people that I work with, that's essential. That's imperative.
Yeah. I mean, some of them will even take the time to record a video to show what's happening in the account. If you have a question, how do I do such and such? We might send you to an article. It's on the help desk that already has it. But a lot of times our support team will load up your account, make a duplicate of your page so that they don't mess with whatever you got. And they record a screen video of them doing what they're saying that you can do. And then they give it back to you. Time and time again, I'm floored with how great our support team is. And I just want to shout from the rooftops that that's the case, because it's definitely the situation with our team.
Well, that's definitely a point of differentiation. Before we wrap this up, I just have to ask, is there something I should have asked you that you are often asked that needs to be addressed so people can feel even better served than how they've been served up until this moment in this interview?
Oh boy, that's a great question. And it's actually one of my favorite questions to ask others too. So, and I just asked it yesterday during an interview, even for a job that that we were hiring somebody for. So I love this question. Take notes, those of you watching. It's a perfect question to ask at the end of an interview. One thing I would say is we talked a lot about landing pages today, and I would love to just make sure that you know that you can build an entire website with Leadpages as well. We take the same easy builder and just add navigation to it. We help you through both education and a little onboarding checklist on knowing like how to make sure that it's going to convert better than a traditional website. And a lot of people find that when they're trying to do, maybe they're trying to get off the ground and they want to have a big elaborate website at some point in the future, but they want to get something that looks really professional. They want something more robust than a landing page because they don't believe me that that's all that you need to start with. They want something else. That's a great thing to use with Leadpages too. And you can decide to do that just for like an individual project. Like let's say Nancy has a new program or a new boot camp that she wants to do, and it just needs more explanation than a landing page would offer. Having a website to market just that one thing can be really powerful. We have people who have the budgets for elaborate websites and elaborate stuff, and they have amazing teams. And then they go to do a book launch and they use Leadpages to do their website for their book launch. And they still use WordPress for the other bigger things that they want to do. But for those targeted marketing things that are going to move the needle on their business, they are using Leadpages to do that too. So as you start a trial, make a landing page, make it your link in bio page for your social media channels, but also play around with that website builder too. We have a website and a weekend course for free that you can take to learn more about how to do a nice, really good looking website that converts well in just a weekend. And it's just another area that I think a lot of people don't know as much about because we've been in this space so long as the landing page building leader that they forget that for the last 3 years, we've also had a full website builder too. So from a product perspective, I would say that. But from a more mindset specific question, I would also say, kind of to reiterate a bit of what we've talked about before, let's just not let perfectionism get in your way. There are people who need what you have. They need it quicker. Utilize your skill set in a way that gets that result for those people, and make sure you're using the technology tools that can do the job and then get out of the way. That you don't want to spend all your time learning all this tech stuff when you could just learn something simple so you can execute the delivery of what it is that you're selling. And I think one last thing, Nancy, I know I've gone on enough, but I think most of your people are like me when I first got started as a former high school teacher, where I was starting to try to learn how to sell stuff, right? I was trying to make money online. I was trying to make money with digital marketing. And I started thinking that my job as a business owner was to get people to buy from me. And I learned from Clay Collins, the co-founder of Leadpages, something really important that changed my mindset. If you're a professional salesperson, absolutely like think that way. But if you're like everybody else, your job as a marketer is not to get people to buy. Your job as a marketer is to get people to make a decision. Okay. Whether it's yes or no, your job is to get people to make a choice. Because if you can bring people to the point where they can make a choice that's in best service of them, then they'll make the choice. They'll either say yes or they'll either say no, and you can either go along with them or they can part ways. But if people come to your website and they're not making decisions, they're just kind of wasting the time of you and your team and themselves. And that's not where your business focus should be. So if you can get people to make that choice and decision and be unattached to the outcome of that decision, your business is going to thrive, and you're going to love the people who you attract and the people you serve, and the people who aren't there are going to still feel like you treated them well and you serve them by allowing them to say no. And to me, that I think is going to be a very successful business where you can feel excited about it. You can feel excited about who you help, and nobody thinks that you are just trying to get their bucks.
I love that. What a wonderful way to conclude a really juicy, juicy conversation. I want to also say, in the spirit of transparency, that I've been in business for 20 years. I had humble beginnings. I've had challenges, but my business has grown dramatically because I have learned to build an audience for my work, serve the audience for the work, be visible about the work that I do, and bring in experts to bridge gaps in my own expertise that can make my clients feel even better served. It's all about wowing the clients every single day. And I'm grateful to Leadpages because in my early stages, when I didn't know what I was doing, I was able to accelerate my learning curve and create pages that convert from 50%, 60%, 70%. I learned how to pay attention to the numbers and know whether or not I was making progress in the right direction. And now I feel like I'm in really great shape. So I know that anyone who's newer on the journey will be very well served should they decide to give Leadpages a try. So I just want to restate that if you go to https://tryleadpages.com/Nancy J, all lowercase, 2 weeks, give it a try, see how it works for you, and see how much money you save and how much aggravation you kick to the rearview mirror because you've got a system in place that's already been proven. How many thousands of pages are up on Leadpages now? I mean, just pull from air a figure.
Yeah, well, 1 million plus have been published for sure.
Yeah. Like,
So a ton.
Or do you want to do a website? Go with somebody who's doing who's done 3 websites this year, and is that the way you want to do it? Like over 1 million sites, they must know what they're doing. Bob, you've been just a great guest. Thank you so much for investing the time to pour into my community. I'm so grateful. And thanks for all who are tuning in now live and those who will be tuning in by replay. We'll put all the relevant links in the show notes so that you can have access to that. And with that, I say thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Nancy.
Okay, bye-bye.